Mike, thank you so much for being here. We're so grateful we get to interview you. I would love if you could introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Mike LaRusso. I was born and grew up in the New York market. Moved out of there down to Atlanta about 20 years ago. Got my selling legs in New York, which was a great experience, and continued that throughout my career. And I've been a sales consultant, and not the fancy consultant, but the ones that are more like an independent contractor, and hired by companies to develop new business for them, whether it's move a new product, open a new territory, or even analyze what they're doing to generate new revenue. And I've been doing that about 40 years.
Amazing. I would love if you could tell us what your book is about.
Sure. In those 40 years, which hurts to say it that often, but like I said, I did consulting work, and my job was to come in and, like I said, develop new business for them. And my main focus and my specialty is bringing on new business. And as I did that, most of my consulting contracts were 3 to 6 months long. So I had to move rapidly. And prospecting within that time period, I had to be able to learn the product, find the customers, hunt them, sell them, and do that quite often within the time period. And typical prospecting methods that you may have heard of and know about, cold calling, telemarketing, they didn't work rapidly enough, let alone work at all, to be honest with you. So I had to develop my own. And over time, I created my own methods that were able to produce rapidly. But it was all in my head, and it was all intuitive. So after doing it for a long period of time, I decided I'm going to put this down in manuscript form in a step-by-step type of process. And it was more designed as a manual. Really, I wanted to equate it to, like, building an engine. It's not superficialities. This is step 1, step 2, step 3. And that's the theme and the crux of the book, The Sales Professional Survival Guide, a blueprint for tactical prospecting.
Love that. What inspired you to write your book?
Frustration. I'll be honest with you. As I was writing it in the way I just described, I had to analyze a lot of sales situations I've been through, hundreds and hundreds, plus a lot of the companies I've worked for. And I realized that a lot of the obstacles that sales professionals face are, and this was a growing issue, never-ending processes and mandatory prospecting methods that were destined to fail, to be honest with you. Certainly to fail in terms of a sales professional making a lot of money. And so I wanted to write this book where not only it was a methodology, but also a commentary, as it became a cathartic experience, because of the majority of the consulting businesses that I worked for, most of them don't exist anymore. And of those, not a single one of them went away because of a lack of sales or a lack of potential sales. And that's the real tragedy. So I wanted to create a commentary where I explain what are some of the issues and problems with the existing sales profession, what are the solutions, which focus mainly on my methodologies, among other things, my insight. And then I also link them all together with anecdotes, which I have hundreds of them, which support each one, the problems and the solutions. And then lastly, one of the biggest problems in the sales profession are inaccurate metrics that are used. And it's almost like cliches at this point thrown around that don't have any meaning in reality. So I created my own statistical equations to back up what the solutions are, and certainly to prove the problems that exist. And they were used as a gauge to gauge production metrics on both ends. And that's actually unique. They're very unique analytical equations based on my experiences.
Love that. That's so amazing. When writing your book, who were you thinking of when it comes to who your book is for?
The book is for, surprisingly, it's for entry-level or newbies, sales students, as well as C-level, both ends of the spectrum, for this, because they lack the same amount of information. It's knowing what the heck's going on in their sales world. Whether it's a C-level executive who wants to know, they're running their business, doing a million different things, so they don't know the day-to-day nuts and bolts, and they're not getting accurate information from what's going on with their organization. And just a quick funny story: when I was working for a company. I didn't even know this existed. A lot of colleges have sales degrees now, which I didn't know. And I was working for a company, and they introduced one morning at a sales meeting an intern that they just hired. And he was from a local college, and he was trying to get a degree in sales, and gave a little 5-minute pitch and explained what he was being taught. And it was all of those things that I'm against, that get in the way of a sales professional actually making money. So that actually lends to your previous question as well. What's my motivation? But in both aspects, both extremes, this is to show what potential pitfalls are, how to overcome them, and what are the solutions.
Love that. How long have you been writing, and what made you really sit down and start?
Writing in the general sense, I've probably been doing since grammar school in the creative way. And it's just something that came to me. I didn't know, why I was doing it. It was just, as you know, some people just have an innate ability or inspiration to do things. But this book was the first one where I actually sat down and said, I am going to publish something of value, hopefully. It just came out. I do other types of writing, non-business, like playwright, songwrite, that type of thing. But this is the first main business entity where I'm doing it to sell copies and have a series.
Amazing. Love that. What is your schedule like when you are writing a book?
Free time is the schedule. So whenever I have a free moment. Inspiration is never an issue with me. If I could do it 24 hours a day, I would, except for the sleeping. And I write everywhere and anywhere whenever I get a free moment. I have my regular spots, the coffee shops, etc. But I've literally, and I'm doing it now, I've written in my car while I'm waiting for my daughter to finish soccer practice. And it's actually funny because that daughter now has graduated. She's in her own profession. And I have my younger daughter. And I'm working on the second book in the car for my second daughter's soccer practice. But there is no schedule. It's inspiration's always there, unless I'm exhausted. And that's the only time I don't do it.
Love that. What do you need in your writing space to help you stay focused?
Light. That's it. There is nothing else. And like I say, I'll write any place I have a free moment. And I've done it in the craziest places. But, you have a lot of it is the corner in Starbucks, maybe a certain table. It's funny, and I don't know if it's superstition, intuition, depending on what I'm writing within the book. If I'm working on the analytics part, the math part, I'll pick one Starbucks. For some reason, it just works better there. And if it's commentary or, I want to be a little bit more entertaining and humorous, I'll choose another one. And then I'll even pick tables, things like that. But it's just, whatever establishes a comfort level. But most of it is just establishing the environment in my mind, and I can do it anywhere. It's kind of crazy, I think, when I think about it now.
I love it. It's super unique. What is your favorite writing snack or drink?
Starbucks. Next question.
Do you have a favorite drink at Starbucks?
It is so dull that it's my favorite that they even make fun of it. I just get black coffee, Pike. They can see me when I'm pulling up in the parking lot. It's waiting for me. I don't want to say that half the time they don't charge. I don't want to get anyone in trouble. But it's actually funny because I came in once and they were training some people, the baristas, they'll train them. And they maybe 30 or 40 different types of drinks they have to make. And they're lined up on the counter because they're training them. And they would give them away for free because it's just for the training period. And I came in and I said, do you have a Pike here, a tall Pike? And they said, Mike, we don't have to train anyone to make a black coffee. So of course it didn't exist. But that's all I need, coffee and Starbucks.
Love it. What type of books do you personally enjoy reading?
When I'm writing for something like this, I try and stay away from reading other books because there's a funny thing, and any writer will tell you this, if it's not a writer's block thing, but sometimes you're struggling for certain phraseology, things like that. And if I have somebody else's writing in my head, I go to the path of least resistance. And I don't like doing this. I don't like, certainly within the same genre, I won't read another book. But in terms of just generally speaking, I love books that are almost, you can consider them verbal documentaries. I like where they explain the nuts and bolts of something that was developed. And it could be someone's biography, it could be building a bridge, because that shows the reality of what things took. And again, I like the reality of things, not the superficiality.
Love that. Are there any books or authors that inspired you to become a writer?
Yeah, every author that's making a living from it was my inspiration at this point. But I have certain writers. Let me put it this way: I like books that are, the term positive thinking, but it's not the positive thinking in the happiness aspect of it. It's in the reality of it, but showing things that you face and how to overcome them. And actually, with this book, one of my first kind of roads I took with it is a book called The Power of Positive Thinking, Norman Vincent Peale. And there was a pocket version that he made. And he has, among other things, there's 10 guideline rules that you can use to keep yourself positive thinking. And I thought, why don't I try and make a sales book for prospecting that's a pocket version that sales professionals can carry around with them? And that was the initial concept, but I blew that out of the water 500 pages later. And it turned into, actually, when I went to the publisher, they said, you have 2 books here. You can't do a 500-page book. So it actually split into 2 books, and the second one it's in its draft form. But any of those books that show the reality of getting ahead and, overcoming things. And that relates to the biography aspect too, or, building a dam, or I've read Einstein just to show what he overcame to create some of the greatest equations in humanity.
Love that. What books did you grow up reading? Did you have an all-time favorite?
You said I can't be negative, right? Here's my issue with, I didn't have an all-time favorite, but I had a lot that, it was a lot of the classics in fiction. But one of the things that I try and put into my writing, like I said, is helping to overcome obstacles. When I was in junior high and high school, you had a curriculum that you followed, and you could probably name the same books I read. And to be honest with you, they were all very, in my mind, negative and depressing. They didn't show you how to overcome things. It was almost how to accept futility was a lot of the feeling of them. And that's why I didn't, I had favorite authors, just to maybe Hemingway and Thomas Pynchon, if you've ever heard of them. But that was just a style, Kurt Vonnegut. But there was no one that stood out and said, I want to write like this person.
Love it. Now, as an adult, what are your favorite series or authors that if they come out with something, you automatically grab it?
The closest I can accurately answer that question is anyone a biography, I think, because I really find it's helpful to show how successful people overcame their obstacles. But other than that, it relates. I only like reading my own stuff because there's a lot of corrections needed.
Love it. What would you tell someone just starting out with reading again?
With reading?
Yes.
Find something that inspires them. And, it's almost like that old phrase that when the student's ready, the teacher appears. There's a tendency to find the book you want when you're ready to read the book you want.
Love that. On the opposite side of that, what would you tell someone just starting to write their own book?
3 things. Know what you want to say first. Okay. Second is use your own voice. That's almost crucial. That's even more important than the first thing. And lastly is know who you're writing for, the target audience. Now that one can come later because, like I said, my inspiration was frustration at some point. It's an art form in a way, and it's more of just it's an inspiration. It's a gut feeling, and you just start doing it, and then later you can tailor it to the audience, which is what I did. because I had the completely wrong audience in the beginning. And I was going after sales professionals. And then I realized that there's no way they're going to accept what I'm saying because they're set in their ways. And this is more tutorial, but it's unique because it's based on my own experiences. It's not using others and cutting and pasting thoughts. This is stuff I've lived in the trenches. And I've seen what works and I've seen what doesn't work. And I've also employed my own methods to test myself. And I see what works and doesn't work as well.
Love that. What's one thing that people are generally surprised to find out about you?
I mentioned I'm from New York, so moving down to the South, there's a lot of things they didn't expect. And I take on a lot of my own, I call it personal project development. And I've taught myself guitar. I write in different levels. I actively play soccer. There's a lot of different things I do. And all of those things, when they come to fruition, and people see, I have a great example. And this just happened last week. My daughter got married, my oldest daughter. And neighbors came to the wedding. We've known for 20 years, good friends. And I wanted to do something unique for the wedding. You know, how parents come out, they're the first ones announced, and they try and do some crazy stuff to look cool. So I said to my daughter, how about if I come out and I play an AC/DC riff on my electric guitar? And I had the red Stratocaster, and I came out, and if I must say so myself, I blew it away. It was just fantastic. Everyone was just floored by it. And then later we were having dinner and they were talking about the book, some friends of mine. And these 20-year-old friends, neighbors for 20 years, said to me, so you play guitar and you wrote a book. I said, what else don't I know about you after 20 years? So it's a lot of these things that you do as side projects. So people just, they either put you in a role or they just, you know, they don't inquire enough to find out.
So. Love that. And congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
For your daughter. Yes. Is there anything you would like to say or add?
I just want to say about the book, the reason anyone in the sales profession would want to read this is a lot of the times in sales training, you're taught things in a mandatory way that don't really help. And if you weren't, it wasn't mandatory for you to sit in that room and learn this, you wouldn't be there and the trainer would have no need to show up. So I know this and I've experienced it. My book, if it's looked upon as a training tool, it's something where you're going to make money on my time rather than the other way around, because I have an obligation to teach you something of value. And that is what this book does. It's revolutionary because it takes prospecting methodologies and it breaks it down in a step-by-step guide. It isn't superficial, and it's almost like building an engine. And in addition, it'll show you commentary on the actual realities of the sales world as I've experienced them over 40 years. And you'll be able to use newly created metrics to gauge your production, which are accurate and, again, realistic. And that's a one-of-a-kind type of tool that I think everyone could benefit from.
Love that. Where's the best place for readers to find your book? I know some readers love signed copies. Is that an option? And the best place to connect with you?
The best place to connect is either on my website, www.MikeLaRusso.com. On Instagram, I'm at Mike_LaRusso1. On LinkedIn, my name. And through my website, you can order through the publisher, in which case you can get signed copies by request. And I'll gladly sign them. Leave me your name. If you want me to say something really cool or show you a picture of my Stratocaster, I'm more than willing to do that.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here. We're so grateful we got to interview you. We'll be sure to drop those links in the show notes. And again, thank you so much.
Courtney, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.